Welcome back to The Outsider Edge. We're on episode 4 now, and we're continuing to explore Dr. Ravier's general theory of coaching. And today we are diving into some pretty fascinating philosophical territory with a thinker who really influenced Dr. Ravier's whole approach to coaching.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to be talking about Edmund Husserl, the father of phenomenology.
Phenomenology, okay, I'll admit that sounds a little intimidating at first. Can you break that down for us? Why is this relevant to coaching?
Well, it might sound complex, but it's actually incredibly practical, especially for coaches. Phenomenology is all about shifting perspectives, peeling back those layers of assumptions, and getting to the core of how we experience the world.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So it's about helping clients see things with fresh eyes. Right, that's got to be pretty crucial in coaching.
Exactly. But to understand how Husserl's ideas actually apply to coaching, we need to understand the ideas themselves. And he starts with a pretty radical idea. He wanted to make the study of experience itself rigorous, like a science.
A science of experience. How do you even make something as subjective as experience scientific?
That's the brilliance of Husserl. He was a real stickler for philosophical rigor. He even disagreed with how some of his own students, like Sartre and Heidegger, used his ideas. He felt they weren't being rigorous enough.
Wow. Okay, so how do we get to phenomenology then?
Well, to get to phenomenology, we need to start where he started, with logic.
Okay, so we're laying the groundwork with logic. What kind of logic are we talking about here?
We're talking about the kind of logic that deals with pure timeless truths. Think the principle of non-contradiction. Something can't be both true and false at the same time.
Yeah, that's a pretty basic truth, I guess. So is Husserl saying these kinds of logical principles are essential for any kind of knowledge?
That's right. These pure logical principles were his foundation for understanding everything else. And from this foundation, he saw these two distinct realms: the ideal world of timeless essences like mathematical concepts, and the real world of facts and experiences as we live them.
Two worlds. Is he talking about parallel universes here?
Not quite. It's more about different ways of approaching knowledge. Think about it this way. A biologist studies the actual behavior of birds, right? That's the real world. But a mathematician studies the essential properties of circles. That's the ideal world. Different approaches, but both valid forms of knowledge.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you even study the ideal world? You can't exactly observe a mathematical concept under a microscope, can you?
Right, and that's where Husserl introduces this fascinating concept called Epoché. It's pronounced Epoché. Think of it like hitting a mental pause button on all your usual judgments about the world, not denying reality, just setting it aside for a moment.
Epoché kind of sounds like a meditation technique. What's the point of doing that?
It's about clearing your mind of all the clutter, all the preconceived notions, so you can see things with fresh eyes. Imagine you've lost your keys in a really messy room. If you just keep frantically searching the same way, you might miss them completely. But if you stop, take a breath, and look at everything with fresh eyes, you might spot them right away. Epoché allows us to do that with our thoughts and experiences.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So Epoché helps us get to the essence of things. What other key ideas did Husserl explore?
Another big one is intentionality. Husserl realized that consciousness is always directed towards something. You're never just conscious. You're always conscious of something, whether it's an object, a thought, an emotion, anything.
So our minds are always actively engaged with something. That's a cool way to think about it.
It is, and it highlights the dynamic nature of how we experience the world. We're not just passive receivers. We're always reaching out with our minds, connecting with what's around us and inside us.
This is already making me think about my own coaching. Okay, so we've talked about logic, these two worlds, epoché and intentionality. All of them leads to his big idea, phenomenology, right?
Exactly. Phenomenology is the study of the structure of experience itself. Imagine looking at the building blocks of our conscious lives, how it all fits together.
So instead of studying what we think, it's about studying how we think?
You got it. And Husserl was all about rigor, remember? He developed a whole method just studying experience in this way. It involves bracketing our usual assumptions with epoché, carefully describing our experiences, and then looking for the essential features of different kinds of experiences.
Okay, this is fascinating, but I have to ask, how does all of this relate to coaching? It seems a bit abstract, right?
That's where it gets really interesting. Dr. Ravier argues that Husserl's ideas are actually foundational to the coaching process. Think about it. A good coach helps you see your own situation with fresh eyes, right? They help you bracket those limiting beliefs and explore new possibilities. That sounds a lot like Epoché in action.
Yeah, I can see that. A good coach helps you hit that mental pause button and shift your perspective.
Right. And Husserl's focus on intentionality highlights something crucial. In coaching, it's all about the client's own goals and values. It's not about the coach imposing their views. It's about helping the client uncover their own inner compass.
So it's less about giving advice and more about guiding the client towards their own insights, helping them discover what they truly want.
Precisely. And that's where the connection between Husserl and coaching becomes so clear. He gives us a whole new way to understand what's happening in that coaching relationship.
Wow, this is pretty mind-blowing. I'm already feeling my perspective shift a little bit. What else does Dr. Ravier have to say about Husserl and coaching?
Well, he goes even deeper and suggests that coaching, when you look at it through this Husserlian lens, can actually be considered a science.
Hold on, science. Isn't coaching more of an art? It's about intuition and connection and all of that.
That's a common perception, but Dr. Ravier argues that at its core, coaching relies on a rigorous approach, almost mathematical. And this is where Husserl's distinction between those two types of science, ideal and real, becomes really important.
Okay, remind me about those two types again. It's been a minute since we talked about them.
Remember Husserl talked about the ideal world of timeless essences, like mathematical concepts, and the real world of facts and experiences? He said that sciences of the ideal world, like logic and mathematics, are based on understanding essential truths, while sciences of the real world, like biology or physics, are based on observing facts.
Okay, right, those two different approaches. So is Dr. Ravier saying that coaching belongs to that ideal world of sciences?
Exactly. He suggests that coaching, like logic or math, operates on a set of fundamental principles that can be systematically analyzed and understood. These principles, he argues, aren't based on just observing what happens in the real world or subjective interpretations, but on the very structure of human consciousness itself.
Wow, that's a pretty bold claim. So what are these fundamental principles of coaching then?
That's where Dr. Ravier's work gets really exciting. He draws heavily on Husserl's concept of intentionality. Remember how we talked about consciousness always being directed towards something?
Yeah, like our minds are always reaching out, engaging with the world.
Precisely. And Dr. Ravier argues that this reaching out is essential to the coaching process. He says that by understanding this intentional structure of their client's consciousness, a coach can help them clarify their goals, uncover hidden motivations, and ultimately make choices that are truly aligned with their deepest values.
So it's less about the coach coming in with solutions and more about helping the client tap into their own inner wisdom.
Exactly. Dr. Ravier even uses this phrase. A truly effective coaching intervention should be without transfer.
Without transfer, what does that mean exactly?
It means that the coach doesn't impose their own beliefs, judgments, or experiences onto the client. They act as a facilitator, guiding the client through a process of self-discovery. Think of it like holding up a mirror.
Ooh, I like that. So the coach is like a mirror, reflecting back the client's own thoughts and feelings, helping them to see things more clearly.
That's a great way to put it. And this without transfer approach is directly rooted in Husserl's idea of Epoché, that mental cause button we talked about earlier. Remember how it allows us to bracket our assumptions and see things with fresh eyes?
Yeah, like clearing away the clutter to find those lost keys.
Exactly. And in coaching, Epoché is all about helping the client set aside their preconceived notions, their limiting beliefs, their habitual ways of thinking. This creates space for new insights to emerge, for new possibilities to be explored.
So the coach isn't trying to fill the client's mind with their own ideas, but rather helping them empty their mind of what's blocking them from seeing their own truth.
You got it. And this is where Dr. Ravier makes a fascinating connection to another concept from Husserl, the phenomenological residuum.
Okay, now we're getting really deep. What is this residuum all about?
Remember how Husserl talked about performing Epoché, bracketing off all of our assumptions about the world? He argued that what's left, what remains after this bracketing, is a pure form of consciousness, free from all the distortions of our preconceived notions.
So it's like distilling experience down to its purest essence.
Exactly. And Dr. Ravier suggests that this phenomenological residuum is where the real magic of coaching happens. It's in this space of pure awareness, free from judgments and expectations, that the client can connect with their deepest values, their truest desires, and their most authentic self.
Wow, that's powerful. It's like coaching can help us strip away all those layers of conditioning and societal expectations and uncover our true selves.
That's the idea. And Dr. Ravier argues that this is only possible through a rigorous application of Husserlian principles, specifically Epoché and intentionality. By understanding and applying these concepts, a coach can create the conditions for profound transformation in their clients.
Okay, I'm really starting to see how these seemingly abstract philosophical ideas from Husserl can actually be incredibly powerful tools for coaches. But how does Dr. Ravier suggest coaches actually apply these concepts in real-life coaching sessions?
He outlines a very specific methodology based on what he calls the categories of action. These categories, he argues, provide a framework for understanding the intentional structure of a client's experience. and for guiding them through a process of self-discovery.
So these categories of action are like a roadmap for coaches to navigate the complexities of human consciousness.
Exactly. And these categories are not just random ideas. They're grounded in Husserl's phenomenology, so they provide a rigorous and systematic approach to coaching.
This is all so fascinating, but I have to admit, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how these abstract philosophical concepts translate into concrete coaching techniques.
The coach creates the conditions for the client to connect with their own phenomenological residuum, that space of pure consciousness where their true desires and values reside.
This is making so much sense. It's like coaching, when done right, is a journey into the depths of our own being, guided by the principles of phenomenology.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And Dr. Ravier's work shows us that this journey can be incredibly transformative, leading to greater self-awareness, more fulfilling choices, and a deeper connection to our authentic selves.
I'm blown away by this episode. It's amazing how Dr. Ravier has taken these complex philosophical ideas and made them so relevant to the practice of coaching. I feel like I need to go back and reread this chapter with a fresh perspective now. I know, right? It's a lot to take in, but so worth it. And it makes you wonder how much of this stuff we're already doing, intuitively as coaches, without even realizing it's connected to this deep philosophical tradition.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think a lot of the best coaches probably are tapping into these principles naturally, but Dr. Ravier gives us a framework for understanding why it works, which I think can make us even more effective.
That's so true. So we've covered a lot of ground here. What's the so what for our listeners? How can they take this and actually use it?
Well, I think one of the most important takeaways is that effective coaching isn't just about having a toolbox of techniques or models. It's about cultivating a way of being with the client, a way of being that's rooted in this deep understanding of human consciousness.
It's not just what you do, it's who you are as a coach.
Exactly. A coach who embodies these principles of Epoché and intentionality will naturally create a space where the client feels safe to explore their own inner world without judgment or pressure.
This has been incredibly illuminating. I'm already starting to think differently about how I approach my own goals. But I have to ask, if this approach to coaching is so powerful, why isn't it more widely known or practiced?
That's a great question, and I think part of the answer is that it challenges the status quo. It requires a deeper level of engagement from both the coach and the client. It's not about following a script or applying a formula.
It's about a genuine commitment to self-discovery and growth, which can be challenging, but ultimately incredibly rewarding.
It's about embracing the journey, even the setbacks. It's about trusting the process of uncovering our own truths and taking intentional action to create the life we desire.
This has been a fascinating exploration of Dr. Ravier's work and how he connects Husserl's ideas to the world of coaching and personal development. We've gained insights into the power of epic, the importance of intentionality, the distinction between ideal and real sciences, and even got a glimpse of his vision for a general theory of coaching.
And we've just scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover as we continue exploring these unconventional paths to wisdom.
Thank you for joining us on The Outsider Edge.
Yeah.
Remember to keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. We'll be back next time with another exploration of unconventional wisdom that can help you redefine how you approach economics management and coaching.
Right.
Till then, keep seeking those essential truths and let your intentions guide your actions.